So, final session of today, and indeed of the whole week of events. And it's a fitting end for the week of Hello Digital. Colin Bracken is one of the leading digital marketers at Microsoft. Before joining Microsoft in May 2006, Colin worked as an instructional designer at Thomas Net G before joining Yahoo Search Marketing in Dublin. He's here to talk about how he measures digital success and how to avoid the simple mistakes which can lead to a failing campaign. So please give a warm welcome to Colin Bracken.
Thank you very much for that fantastic introduction. Thank you very much also for coming back after lunch. I realise it's Friday afternoon. You've just had some lunch. You may be feeling a bit, the blood's coming from your brain down to your stomach, trying to digest that wonderful food, it must be said. This is my first time in Birmingham. I'm based down in London with Microsoft Advertising. And I have to say, I've been massively impressed with some of the content that I've seen so far. I've been following it avidly on Twitter, and some of the remarkably intelligent discussion that's going on is really encouraging. Today I want to talk a little bit about some of the digital trends that we're seeing as a company, how that relates to consumers, and more importantly, how it relates to business, and what are businesses doing in the current landscape to take advantage of what's becoming a very, very fragmented web. We see audiences being fragmented across the web in often various different places. And I completely realize that it must be a daunting challenge for a lot of you to feel that you can keep up, that you can do your business justice, and that you can take advantage of what must be said are wonderful opportunities at the moment. So I just wanted to start with an interesting story. This guy, his name is, he's an abbot. His name is Christopher Jameson. And he's from Worth Abbey down in Sussex. And he just so happens to be the former headmaster of a very good friend and colleague of mine at Microsoft. This guy built a bit of fame a few years ago, whereby he set up a reality TV show and guys came to live with the monks in their abbey. And he wanted to build on this, and he saw online and digital being a great way to do that. So in order to promote his retreats and spiritual courses that he had on offer, he approached my friend, Mel Carson, for those of you who may know him, and he approached Mel to get him online, get him onto the web, and see if he could attract any interest to these courses. So Mel duly obliged. He set up a PPC campaign, a paid search campaign on a certain search engine, who, me being from Microsoft, it's Google. So he set up this campaign, and lo and behold, the traffic that started to come in was fantastic. But it wasn't just about people wanting to take part in these courses. He actually had a convert. So that's what I call cost per monk. He actually had somebody go on one of the courses and become a monk. Okay? This is, for me, it always stands out as one of the most extreme ways that you can use digital and online to reach the conversion that you talk about a conversion. Okay? This is a fantastic story, and it just goes to show that there are no limits to what you can do with digital. So, if I was to move my slide forward, I just want to maybe relate to, where we've come from. This is the good old trustworthy Yellow Pages. Think about when you were trying to find a business in years gone by. You would furtively look up this book to find a telephone number, and that'd be about it. Okay? What it's suddenly become is a very digital experience, a very rich experience, to where small businesses can find themselves front and center of an audience in their millions. Okay, so this example here is of a florist in Liverpool, of somebody looking for a florist in Liverpool on our great search engine, Bing, and finding themselves getting eyeballs from potentially thousands and millions of people. One second now. There we go. So you take that experience of a Yellow Pages book, and next thing you have maps, you have telephone numbers, you have directions, you have all sorts of information. Fantastic, but actually still quite basic in this day and age. But that's just giving you a flavour of where we've come from. And as I said earlier, it can become really daunting. Think of all these services that you see and that your friends use and that you use, and how can you take advantage of these? You can see Twitter, you can see Bing, you can see Facebook, the newly released Windows Phone, Foursquare, Google, Android, Apple, iPhone. And there's something, I suppose, if you were to notice a pattern in here, you would say really, and it's something that I'm going to focus on. By the way, you're going to see these ridiculous and really useless slide translations. Did you like that one? Completely pointless. That one is called Vortex in PowerPoint. Okay. So I'm going to focus on 3 specific areas that I think are really relevant today to the small and the medium-sized enterprise. Social, the social web, how that can be leveraged. Search is still here. Search is still that big gorilla in the room. It can't be ignored. And finally, mobile. And you know what? They're not mutually exclusive. Search is appearing on the mobile. Social is very much integrated with the mobile. Search is very much integrated with social. There is a relationship and an almost growing dependency on each other, and that's really great news for business. So if I was to think about social, well, let's not think about social for a second, because social fits on another few slides. But this particular slide, I wanted to give you a perspective of the landscape for advertising. This industry is absolutely enormous. People have come back from the recession and they're spending more than ever. If you can see this graph at the back, you can see that online, i.e. internet, accounts currently for 24% of the total advertising spend for the H1 of this calendar year. That is absolutely enormous. And if we were to see where the growth areas are, you would see that online has 10% growth for a like period last year. This is beating some more established channels out there, such as direct mail and directories. But 10% is well above the 6.3 average here. If you were to look at search in isolation, you can see that. So I started in search in 2003, right about this time actually, the very first block, H1 2003, and it accounted for 3%. Sorry, this is the UK. These figures are from the IAB, and they produce these numbers. Sorry, the writing's a bit small on some of the previous graphs. Actually, it's not there. But this was produced in conjunction with PricewaterhouseCoopers. It's the UK. So search on its own accounts for now for 24% of the online market. It's pretty staggering. The digital mix, online constitutes 24% of the online budget. Search in particular is the majority stake in that at 60%. So that is a phenomenal growth period from 2003, from when Google really started to accelerate in this area. And I think if you were to take any inference from this data, it's that search really remains a very, very important channel for advertisers. But what about social? Social is phenomenal. It's a phenomenon that's not going to go away. It currently accounts for about almost a quarter of the pie there in terms of time spent online. But what's interesting is that only 36% of small to medium-sized enterprises are using social media. Larger brands are twice as likely to use social media. I just said I'd put that out there. What constitutes social media? It's a tough one. All of these things do, blogs do, Facebook obviously does, Twitter obviously does, video does, and there are many, many more. But what I suppose could be said is that all of these are social media, yet none of them actually encompass the entire what social media means in its purest form. So what I would say is that websites will come and go, but audiences will remain. Don't get hung up on the latest website or making sure that you're on the latest social network. As Kieran said from Mindshare recently, last year it was Facebook, this year it's Twitter. We have to stop talking about current popular websites and start talking about technologies and behavior. That's really, really important. Right, so why would anybody in business want to use social media? And I apologize for the small writing, but I'll call them out here. Number one reason, in a recent survey by the IAB in the UK, 77% of people surveyed said that they would use social media to drive awareness and engagement and consideration, I beg your pardon. 74% said they would use it to drive engagement and advocacy. And you can see it goes down the line for research purposes. Interestingly, drive sales is probably further down the line than I would have expected it to be. And all the way down to informing product development. So if you're thinking about what your social media strategy is, why are you using it? Is it just because someone said you should? Or what are your objectives? You have to have an objective. If it's to drive sales, that's fantastic. If it's to engage with your audience, that's fantastic. If it's to do research on a product that you're thinking about, that's also fantastic. But you must have a reason to go into the world of social media. So some of the pitfalls and some of the things that I've noticed where people have tried to use this medium but have failed. The first thing I would say is try not to talk into a void and get some friends, because if you have a very small group of friends, they'll probably get sick of listening to you and you won't get much back. It must be said that you have to create your network. As I said earlier, I've seen people not have any objectives for this channel. They don't have a specific sales target for maybe their Facebook site or for their Twitter site. They don't have a target number of comments. They don't have a target number of brand engagements. And people don't measure. How are you supposed to know if you're doing a very good job if you don't measure? And there are lots and lots of tools, which I won't go into, around measuring how good a job you are doing of managing your social media strategy. I've seen very poor content, very infrequent content. It's if you've got the audience, you have to make sure that your message is very coherent and very directed at them. Lack of integration, Are you saying the same thing on Facebook that you're saying on Twitter, that you're saying on your blog? Are you sharing the content from Flickr onto your blog? Are you directing people to videos on YouTube from your Twitter site? And all pushing and no pulling. If you're going to engage with your audience, you have to be willing to commit to spending time talking back to them. It's all very well and good talking about the latest product that you have or the latest service that you have if you're not listening to your customers. You need to find some way to measure what they're saying and reply to it in kind. So that's social media, and that's what the beauty. Some of the best things in life are free. If you're willing and committed to using this channel, just take note of some of these criteria here, or some of these pitfalls, I should say. The next thing, what about search? Search is still a massive channel for advertisers. At Bing, at Microsoft, our search engine, we have a reach of about 17 million users per month, which is phenomenal. But we wanted to So before I go into that, I suppose I want to give you a little bit of a story about Bing. We have felt for years that search hasn't innovated beyond the blue links that you currently see every day. And also, what if that channel that you use, and I'll call it out Google, what if you cannot engineer your way to the top of your of the list of the SEO listings or paid search platform auction? If your business is completely and utterly dependent on it, you could be in trouble. So what we want to do is provide an alternative for consumers and advertisers alike, and to give people who are willing to spend money the option of where they can get the best value from that money. Look at this poor guy here. He's absolutely distraught. He's using a search engine, and you know what? 25% of clicks from the research that we found have led to him hitting the back button. 42% of sessions need refinement, and almost 50% of searches last more than 30 minutes. So there's a few things here. People using search engines, whether it's obvious or not to them, could be getting a better deal. How many times have you used a search engine, not found what you're looking for, and blamed yourself? Oh, I mustn't be using it properly. I mustn't be creating the right query strings. That's absolute rubbish. If you couldn't start your car in the morning, you wouldn't blame yourself. You'd blame the person who made the car. So what we've tried to do is create an alternative in search. And this alternative looks like making sure that the results that we send back are a lot more relevant to local results. Help you accomplish tasks more quickly. The last point I mentioned in the previous slide, people are not just searching in isolation. You typically will go online in the evening, maybe you're booking a holiday. That will not be one search in isolation. It could be multiple dozens of searches involving you looking anything from the hotel, the flight, reviewing the hotel, looking for the best deal on car hire, and so on and so forth. Search is becoming a task, and we want to approach search like that. And that will, in the long run, help advertisers. So to cap that off, more refined search intent means more qualified leads. And that's really important for advertisers. Cut down on the back button, cut down on the all those searches that are not needed. One theme that I wanted to bring through all of this is around audiences. Audiences are really important in that they should be your number one concern, not just clicks in isolation, impressions in isolation, like buttons, hitting the like button in isolation. It should be about your audience. Start with the audience and work your way out. In search, it's particularly important because we have an enormous audience, and it's really important that we deliver technology and solutions that can target your audience, whether it be through age and gender, geolocation, time of day, and so on and so forth. And are you getting value for your money? Ignore the fact that I'm talking about Bing here. How aware are you of your metrics through all the channels that you have? Do you know that for every £100 that you spend online with maybe on a banner ad, how does that relate to your search campaign? You have to relate the two. It's the one pot of money that you're using to spend on this type of advertising. It just so happens that we're the best converting search engine out there. Now, another really important consideration is around the data. I've given you a ton of slides so far. It's my day job. It should be your day job too. You have to understand your data. Do not lose control of this. I think if John Battelle put it very well when he said, search engines are becoming almost like a database of intention. People are more than willing to tell search engines how they're feeling, what they're doing, where they want to get to, what they want to buy. It's becoming this massive corpus of information. And as advertisers, if you can mine this, you're on the home straight. So, I want to give you an example. Back in the day when Lehman Brothers were collapsing and I could see people walking down the street with boxes in their hands and everything was going belly up. I also noticed a general trend amongst my friends. They were changing the way they behave and the way they consume things online. Some people weren't buying coffee. I thought that was interesting. Not willing to pay maybe £2, or in London especially £2.50 for a coffee. And it's interesting, you can see this behavior online with data. This is a graph of queries that we have with Bing. You can see just around the time when the financial institutions were in turmoil, people were instantly retracted into how can I save my money and tighten my belt. And coffee makers went through the roof. It's a very simple insight. It's a very basic insight. But you know what? The data is there. You don't have to pay a company for it. The data is there. Get control of the data. Use it. Okay, I wanted to introduce something for you. This is not a pitch. This is a free tool that I want to offer you all. It's an insights tool that gives you an insight into our search data. At Microsoft, we're intent on being transparent with our data, i.e. what our users are doing and what advertisers are doing on our search engine. With this tool that you can download at Let Search Make You Smarter, it sits very simply within Excel. If you want to get the latest insights from any particular industry or vertical or any particular niche product, this is the best way to do it, bar none. What it does allow you to do is this. So we all use Excel every day. It's both something you probably love and hate at the same time. That's okay. I get that all the time. It's something I love and hate every day. In this particular instance, these keywords on the left-hand side, I just simply plug them in to this tool, and next thing, hey presto, I've got some amazing insights here. I've got some graphs going back, this is taken from about a year and a half, 2 years ago, of certain products that some of our customers are really interested in. So I basically put them into the tool in Excel, really easy to do, copy and paste your keyword list. And look, who knew that beds really do surge in January? Anyone know that? I didn't. Who knew that Christmas decorations, the search for them starts to happen in August? Who knew that garden furniture was being sought in February or March? Well, that probably makes sense. Weather gets a bit better. But again, I'm not Einstein. I'm not, whilst I work with data a lot, it allows you to, this tool and this sort of insight is really, really powerful. Think about when you're planning your budgets throughout the year. Straight away, you've got peaks and troughs that you can identify with and that you can weave into your budgeting. Your audience, I keep going back to it. Who are your audience? This tool also allows you to split out these key interest areas by age and gender. For those of you who can't see it, this is the female breakdown for these keywords. And on the right hand side you can see male. Oops, I've gone too far. So you can see by age in this particular graph, age and gender. The age columns start at the youngest and move older. So for these particular keywords, females are a lot more interested in barbecues, party dresses, Christmas decoration, beds and bridesmaids dresses. Hey presto. Really, really interesting. Secondly, you can break it out by age, more specifically, melting the two together, female and male. And there are a ton of insights. I won't go into anything in particular here. And in the tool, again, it's pretty straightforward. You put in your keywords and hit a button. Job done. Right, I wanted to talk a little bit about search. And for those of you who hadn't seen this or have been living under a rock for the past year and a half or so, we've done a deal, or we've established a partnership with Yahoo, which ultimately means two things. Bing will now power Yahoo, both from an algorithmic and from a paid search standpoint, as of early next year. Ultimately, what this means for advertisers is that two platforms will become one. Therefore, it should save you a ton of time. Microsoft will also assume responsibility for the SMB segment of the market, whilst Yahoo will assume responsibility for premium sales. They're the basic terms of the deal. It'll be one auction, and for those of you who said, Colm, Bing is great, but Excuse me. Bing is great, but we can only get on Ad Center in particular in 4 markets. What this means is that we will move from 4 markets to almost 40 markets. Improve that query share that we've been looking for, which is really important for advertisers. They don't want to fragment their time between engines. We get that. We want to bring as much volume to our platform as possible. It's a really important point to make there. And our global audience will go to about 600 million searchers. That's an FYI for you. Keep a lookout for that in the near future. So that's search. I wanted to talk briefly now about mobile. And if I get asked one more time, is this the year of the mobile, I will scream. But instead I'll just write it up here. It's not the year of the mobile, it's the decade of the mobile. We have seen absolutely phenomenal growth this year in this area. The market has become extremely competitive, and we joined that competition in a lot more formidable way yesterday with the launch of Windows Phone. I'm just going to show you a video with, hopefully we'll have sound on, and just this is our take on how we see mobile at the moment.
Really? It's time to look up again. New Windows Phone, designed to get you in and out and back to life.
It probably goes without saying that we've lost a bit of ground in the mobile space in the past few years. I won't get in trouble for saying that. I won't get fired, because I think it's very important that we acknowledge the success that our competitors have had in this arena. Some of them have innovated really, really well. They've created devices that have really resonated with millions of people around the globe. But the mobile battleground is, it's about to start, because the future is mobile. I want to give you a view of smartphone penetration in the US over the previous year. So the number of people out there with mobile phones who happen to have a smartphone. The share of the market has gone from 16% to 25% in 1 year. Okay? Hands up those who have a smartphone. Hands up those who have a dumb phone. Yay! Well done for admitting it, I mean. This is a business conference. I would expect that amount of hands to go up. The mobile platform is where Microsoft is very keen to become involved in. We see laptops getting smaller. I don't know if you can see this here. It's quite small. We can see mobiles getting bigger. I don't need to call it out. It's a very important place to be for us. It's about having a really good platform for our customers and for consumers alike. Just to give you a view on the market breakdown. Again, this is US data, so I apologize for that. But the blue line at the top just so happens to be the iPhone. It's BlackBerry as far as I know. But the key point here is this green line. That is Android. Android is making significant inroads in the market. It's, again, a formidable competitor of ours. But actually, globally, and it barely appears in the chart here, Nokia are the kingpins with the Symbian platform. It just so happens to be that the US is pretty advanced in terms of smartphone usage. Why am I saying all of this? Why am I saying all this? You must follow your audience. I talked about audiences before. You must follow them. If you're stuck on the PC and you're trying to reach people through the PC when everybody I see is on the train going home looking at their phone, well then you're talking into that void I was talking about. But it's, it's no easy task to get your head around mobile. So how is mobile currently being consumed on the how's the smartphone being used? This is really interesting. Entertainment. In a survey that again the IAB did with partners of ours and ourselves, 91% of respondents say they use their smartphone for entertainment. It's phenomenal. And when one of my bosses stood up last week to tell us where we were going with the Windows Phone, he said we're going after entertainment. I thought he was suffering from jet lag or was maybe a bit delirious, but it's true. And you know what, I was on the tube yesterday evening and I was looking at people on their phones. I saw 3 guys around me playing Bejeweled. 3 guys playing the exact same game, none of them knew each other, all standing like this, their backs to each other, playing a game on their smartphone. These are the sort of insights that you need to know. Leisure and travel is really important for people wanting to find location-based services, people looking for the nearest restaurant, connecting to GPS to a service that they want to access locally. Really, really important. So if you sit in any of these categories here, take note and really see what the potential is. What are people doing when they're looking for a mobile internet site or a company when they're on their phone, when they want to buy a product or service? The number one thing that they're looking to do is check the price of a product or service. I'm guessing that if I'm in a shop and I'm trying to buy a product, I'm going, could I get this cheaper online? I really don't want to pay an extra 10 quid here in the bricks and mortar store. The other things that they're really interested in getting info about a product, maybe is it compatible with whatever you have, maybe it's an electronics item or whatever. And something as simple as finding a location of a local store. If you're involved, if you have a small business, can you be found? If I was to take my phone out now, could I find you? Could I find a map of where you are? Could I find your telephone number? Could I find what products you have? If you don't, if you don't have that facility, or if you don't have the information online, think about it in context of what I've been talking about earlier. Another thing people are looking to do is looking for vouchers, finding the opening hours. If you got off the train coming home from work, you need to go and find out if the store is still open. Are they a really disgruntled customer when they get to your shop or to your business and they found that your business is closed? Buying a product, obviously they want to do it on the phone and find the number. Right, which of the below ways of advertising would you find the most useful? So, if a user was presented with advertising on the mobile phone, what would they find useful? Offers and vouchers that could be used in the local area stands out at 49%. I don't know about you, but these tough recessionary times has really seen a massive growth in vouchers and people looking to shave money off their lunch and their dinner and so on and so forth. If they can get that on their phone while they're mobile looking for a restaurant, you're in. Offers and info about stuff in the local area really important, and it goes down the line, checking the price of a product in the local area. So if they were to get advertising on all these areas, they'd find them really useful. Just conscious of time here. So tips when considering going mobile, at least be discoverable, okay? If you don't have the wherewithal or the resources to go down the road of building this phenomenal app or building really impressive mobile content, well then at least be discoverable. Have a place on a map somewhere with your address and your telephone number. Help customers get to your bricks and mortar store if you have an offline store. Help them get there. Sounds reasonable, right? Make your content really browser friendly. By the way, the reason, can anybody answer me why apps are so, why the app thing has taken off? Anybody? No? Anyone to hazard a guess? No. It's because the browser experience is so rubbish on a mobile phone. It's because people cannot do what they want to do on the browser. And we take blame for that, and manufacturers of phones should take blame for that. But if you get a Windows Phone, I'm sure you'll change your mind on that front. But that is why apps have become so really important. You can transact through an application in a way that you couldn't possibly do, or maybe it's a bit more cumbersome on a browser. And if possible, use a mobile specialist. There's a lot of really niche mobile companies out there who will make you really successful in this area. If you're wanting to get on that smartphone bandwagon, a little bit of investment here could go a long way. So I'm almost done. There are lots of other things. When I read the brief of this, it was about what does digital success look like? I can point you afterwards to lots and lots and lots of case studies, and I'd be more than willing to do that in the follow-up. I felt it was better to give you a grounding at something that's not as detailed as that, because I still see reluctance, not just in the SMB space, but also with big brands, to get involved in some of these areas. I can point you to the case studies afterwards, and you can read them with your Ovaltine later on tonight. So they're the three areas that I focus on. I think they're three really key areas for the smaller size business. Social, it's free. Search, it's not free. Mobile, it can be and it can't be. So those three areas are really important. And finally, I just wanted to say thank you very much for having me here. I will say goodbye, digital. But before I go, if I could just leave you with these a few pieces of advice, if I may. It's becoming very fragmented, as I said, very fragmented web. You must carve out a niche. Get good at something, okay? You don't have to be good at everything, but get good at something. Go to your audience. Even better, lead them. Watch their behaviors. Our audience is doing something now that's different 6 months ago. Clothes is a great example. Some of our biggest clothes retailers are really making a push for it online this year. And that's because consumers are willing to buy clothes online. It's something that they've really latched onto. And then engage with your audience, of course, really, really important. And that engagement can take multiple forms. With the clothing example, I've seen some fantastic examples of retailers, putting their catalog online, suggesting really good rich content about what you should be wearing this season, what matches what fits your style, and so on and so forth. So see what your audience want and engage them. Not finally, but penultimately, I'd say commit to digital or else. It's really, really important. You've seen where brands are going, and I'd urge you not to be left behind. And finally, get comfortable with metrics. Data is hugely important. You really need to be, I'm not telling you to go out there and, build massive databases and be proficient in SQL Server and all that sort of stuff, but be comfortable in understanding what that data is telling you. And not just to say, yeah, that's really nice data. Create actionable insights. What are the 5 things you can take from that data that you've looked at and that you can do today or do tomorrow? What are the 5 actionable things that you can do? There are a ton of other things I could have talked about. Digital is such a massive remit. In-game advertising, it's going to be huge. It's going to be massive. IPTV, it's going to be enormous. Who controls the living room? Who has the platform in the living room? You said it's you. You have the remote control. Yeah. This Christmas will be a big turning point and inflection point for us as we try to create a new experience for people who are seeking entertainment in the living room with Xbox Kinect. I'm not going to sell it. Just watch out for it. It's an amazing piece of technology. So who's going to own that space? I mentioned IPTV. There are various other forms of outdoor digital advertising and so on and so forth. But if there are 3 things that you should really concentrate on at the moment as a smaller business, it's social, search, and mobile. And with that, I'll leave you with my details. Feel free to contact me at any point. I can put you in touch with some really good case studies, some more data if you need, or with other people who are more willing to, or not more willing, but who have better expertise than I do in any particular area that you're looking for. So with that, thank you very much.
Thanks very much, Colm. So we've had some great advice and insight: social media, search, audiences, metrics and data, and the mobile platform. So plenty to think about there. Thanks again. So it's now time to wrap up this excellent day and indeed an excellent week. And I promise I'm not going to keep you too much longer. It's Friday and there's been a hell of a lot to take in today. Hello Business has been a really fantastic opportunity for Birmingham to put itself at the forefront of the digital revolution. And I'd like to take this opportunity to thank everybody who's been involved and worked so hard to make this week possible. Those who've sponsored, organised and supported the event, and if you would excuse me, I'm just going to name them, which is Birmingham City Council, Big Cat, SAP Global, HCL Axon, Visit Birmingham, Digital Birmingham, Business Link, Screen West Midlands, the Business Desk and the Arts Council England. So we all know that Birmingham's leading the way in terms of digital, but it's vital that this progress is maintained. As Neely explained first thing this morning, for the digital agenda to be truly transformational, it needs to operate on every level, from hyperlocal to national, from European to global. And talking of hyperlocal, it was amazing to see the response on Twitter to Alex's presentation. Indeed, Kayla from Smarts tweeted that it was possibly the most interesting presentation I've ever sat through, so he's definitely got a fan there. I'm sure we've all learned a lot about some of the potential pitfalls of social marketing and picked up some invaluable tips. I had the chance to listen in to some of the panel sessions, and I was fascinated by the diverse ways that digital agenda is being harnessed by different people, different companies, and for different reasons. For example, take Cornbrook, a Shropshire-based construction company which changed the culture of the organisation through technology. As Cy Whitehouse tweeted, the carrot is better than the stick, and how right he is. Take also Joe Alderson from Pinson's, who gave an introduction to the emerging and evolving law around copyright, trademarks and IP. It's also clear from Twitter that many of you were really impressed by Sticky's augmented reality campaign for award-winning author Cecilia Ahern. You probably won't have been able to see everything you wanted to, but in true digital fashion, all the material from today is being collated together and it'll be shared online. So please keep an eye on your emails and Twitter for news of when the material's live. I'm sure you've all learned a lot today, and indeed during the course of the week, but this is only the start. As I said this morning, we all have a role to play now in taking what we've learnt today and sharing it with the outside world. Digital inclusion is such an important ingredient of our collective future, it's important that we all do our best to spread the word. While the telephone, the car, the personal computer, or any great innovations started up as something that only a select few could capitalise upon, their ultimate success depended on them being used by everyone. And this is where your involvement is so vital. It's important that the leaders in the industry, those of you here now, do your bit to spread the word, encouraging and empowering those who need help to engage. So that's food for thought on a Friday evening. We've had some great feedback on Twitter, but I would ask you if you could please, that's really big please, fill in the evaluation forms that are in your packs. We do need this so that we can continue to inform future events and for next year. So if you could do that before you leave, that would be great. So thank you very much for coming today. I hope you've enjoyed yourselves, learnt a lot, realised the potential we have here in the West Midlands. So please do enjoy the refreshments. For those with energy, network for all you're worth, and safe journey home. Thank you.